I accidentally interviewed SBF and he hated it.
I
If you don't know who Sam Bankman-Fried is, he is a scammer. Unless you read any mainstream media articles about him, in which case he is a embarrassed philanthropist who wanted to do so much good in the world, it ended up messing him up.
interviewed Sam Bankman-Fried, and he hated it so much that he left within minutes, in part because he didn't know he would be interviewed by me. He thought he was being interviewed by someone else on Twitter. And I snuck up in the DMs and got on the call and started peppering him with some harder questions. And within minutes of that, suddenly Mr. Open and Honest decided he needed to leave. But I didn't let that stop me because I joined an interview the very next day doing the exact same thing.
Whoa, like, Coffeezilla is stream sniping him. He's unironically stream sniping him. This is the one case where stream sniping is actually a W. Really? This is what's happening. Like, holy fuck.
Pushing him again, and I got some pretty good answers out of it. I think the running theme here is with this whole press tour, he's going with this image of, I'm embarrassed, I made a mistake, but I'm here to be open and honest now. But that's not true, because when you actually hit him with some hard questions, suddenly meetings come up. Suddenly he can't talk. Suddenly he's just Mr. Ums and Ahs. So I wanted to show both interviews. I think they're very interesting.
Yeah.
I really wanted to press him on this $8 billion that mysteriously went missing that he...
Wait, 8 billion or million?
I really wanted to press him on this $8 billion.
Billion. Yeah, okay. That's about right. Yeah, no wonder all these websites are writing good articles about him. Of course. That's $1 billion. Yeah, so... As I said, I told you guys, if I got into crypto 10 years ago, I would not be a billionaire. I would be in jail. Okay? Like, this is... I am very, very glad every time that I see one of these guys get fucking arrested or something like this, or dead. Yes, or dead. I saw there was a crypto guy who was... he said he was going to expose the pedo elite, and it was in, like, the Caribbean islands... And he was like a billionaire from crypto, and then he drowned? Oh, man. That was crazy. It was a mysterious death. Yeah, it just happened randomly. That's nuts. Yeah, he committed suicide with sniper round from 100 meters away. I don't know how it happened, but yeah. It's nuts.
That mysteriously went missing that he didn't know about. And I'm sure I'm going to be breaking these down more specifically in the days to come. But for now, I just wanted you to enjoy these unedited conversations with Sam Bankman-Fried that he didn't know we'd be having.
Coffeezilla, the mic is yours, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I just wanted to quickly ask. So there's this big question about this $8 billion that went into some kind of a stub account.
It's just like, so yeah, I wanted to ask about the like the $8 billion. Like, so, what? So, like, where is it?
If I just want to get some clarification on this, from my understanding, what you're basically claiming is
Kim gets in on all of these. I don't know how he does it. This guy is in with everybody. But he's friends with me. He's friends with Train. He was there on the fucking Drake video whenever the Drake stream with like Ninja and Drake. He's here with this event. He's talking to Elon Musk. This guy is a networking god. I like him.
That back when FTX didn't have banking, you'd use Silvergate to have people to wire money to Alameda Research and then credit them on the FTX side, but you didn't actually account for that money going back to them. So essentially you had like $8 billion coming to FTX you didn't have on the books, technically. I mean, can you explain more how that worked? Because it seems like such a key part of this whole thing. And so far we've gotten like very vague things about stub accounts. Just try to be as specific as you can on how that actually happened.
Okay. That's a pretty big one. Here we go.
So, and again, some of these are things I'm trying to piece together that I don't have the full answer to, but
he doesn't even know what's going on in his own company. And I think this is a very, very common thing with Sam. You see, Sam cares so much about philanthropy, and he cares so much about donating to lobbying groups and politicians to make the world a better place, that he wasn't paying attention to that $8 billion and it just got lost. That's what happened.
But I think that part of it was, I believe that there was, correct FTX accounting, in terms of, the audited financials. But that at least I can say that when you sort of pulled up, on a dashboard, what the accounts look like, it would not have, it wouldn't have displayed, those transfers, and it wouldn't have displayed the balances related to those, which meant that it was, that the sort of what you would naively see as the relevant, it's the relevant sort of position size was quite a bit smaller than what the full position size was.
Specifically, you're talking about the funds that went into Alameda that was credited to FT on the customer side on FTX.
Yeah,
you're saying that basically when you looked at your dashboard, Alameda was using those funds to trade perhaps, but that ultimately you couldn't see that on the Alameda side because there was some kind of an accounting problem where there was a mix.
It's a problem with the website. Yeah, yeah, I mean, you know how it is.
Up with where it was credited.
Yeah.
Is that the story?
Yeah, it's something roughly like that, or at the very least that the common displays of it did not include that piece of the
His
account.
bank account was locked.
A real quick second follow-up. So I've talked to a few Alameda insiders, and I've kind of run them by your story of things. I think you probably are aware. I'm pretty skeptical. And one of them, when I told them, could it be that Sam wouldn't know about this? Somebody who worked with you, and they actually, they laughed and they said, there's no way he's claiming to be stupid now when he was like this genius wonder kid. And so my sense of things is, how do you explain this? How do you explain the fact that some of the people who worked with you for years, your employees, have come out and said, there's no way he didn't know about these back doors. There's no way he didn't know what Caroline was doing when you guys were very close. The offices were right next to each other. I mean, how do you expect us to believe this story you're spinning?
I mean,
yeah, I gotta go. Oh, fuck. I just checked the time. It's get the fuck out of here o'clock. Guys, I gotta go.
I don't know what to say. I
don't know what to
had
say.
A lot going on. And I was spread thin. I was a bit less grounded than I had been before. And I lost track of a lot of important things. And I think
so
that...
you see the tone change, because that's probably some sort of media coaching or something like that, where he changes the tone into this apologetic, dismissive feel, right? You see how that switched real quick. Well, it's so easy to see these things whenever you're looking for him. It's PR training. Yeah. He's just going, what he's doing now is he's going to just kind of ease into a pre-approved paragraph that he's going to use.
Hang on one second.
But that's not going to happen. Because, see, he knows this. Anybody who watches this shit, we know how this game is played. Well, we obviously, fucking know. Immediately, okay, yeah, this is it.
I think spread thin is one thing, right? I think, things can get out of hand.
Yeah.
But we're talking about a fundamental understanding of whether Alameda was commingling funds with FTX. I mean, I saw your Stephanopoulos and Sorkin interview, and you're pretty categorical that you had no idea that you were mingling funds. So that's what I'm asking about. Not did you know exactly what was happening on November 7th or 8th? I mean, I can understand sort of things getting out of control, but we're talking about the most fundamental grasp on how your business worked. You're telling us you had no idea.
I was not aware of a lot of what was going on. I was vaguely aware.
Speaking of vaguely, I was not aware of a lot of what was going on. You know what that says? Nothing.
That
absolutely
some of these
nothing
existed. I know details of them, and I was not spending much time and on looking at position risk management. It was a big mistake.
I mean, we're
Right,
right.
Sam. I've just got guys. I've just got a DM. Sam has to leave. So guys, Sam has to leave.
Oh, Sam should have told the guy who was interviewing him that Sam didn't have to leave. Oh my God, you gave him the DM. Oh, Sam, what a huge tactical mistake, because this implies that you wanted the interview to end. Oh my God, you should have told him to say that. Oh, you idiot.
Mark.
Next thing I noticed, Sam's in another Twitter AMA space.
I have a couple questions.
Uh-oh.
Read the margin accounts. I mean,
bro, he's actually getting stream sniped. Unironically. He's showing up randomly and like, oh, here I am again. All right, let's pick up right where we left off.
There's sort of all this talk about the terms of service. Did you break terms of service?
Yeah.
Did you not? You're basically claiming that there was a separate side of your terms of service which said that if people had margin accounts, you could use kind of their funds, or there was looser language around that. Mm-hmm. But I talked to somebody from Alameda and asked how big the position of or how many people had assets in the type of accounts that terms of service would apply to versus the regular terms of service, which said you couldn't use their money. And they said it was about $1 billion that was in the margin trading, or the margin side of things, where you could reuse their funds or whatever, and there was the rest of it was not there. So does that mean the rest?
So what he was using, he had some people that had this plausible deniability, and he used them as a shield to make people believe that everybody was in that same type of agreement.
So the money was stolen? I mean, it seems like you're putting all your eggs behind this one excuse about, there was this separate side of the terms of service. How do you address everyone else?
So I don't have all the data in front of me. My memory is that it was substantially more than $1 billion.
Oh, bro, I don't have this shit. I don't know. I think it was more bro, I forgot. I don't remember how many, but 3, 5, 10 billion. I mean, it is what it is.
In the margin trading program. But I don't have that data in front of me right now, so I can't verify that. On top of that, there were other effects as well, and I don't have the data about all the details of those in front of me, but my understanding is that, some of those were, early wire transfers sent directly to Alameda, which I think contributed to the position as well, and then there are open futures positions on top of that, on top of the spot margin positions. Where there can be effectively socialized losses clawbacks if one is unable to be closed in time. And so I think it was a combination of those factors. There may have been other factors too, but there
may have been other factors too. See, this guy does exactly what I do. Whenever he makes a statement, he always adds a qualifying statement that follows it that will make him immune for actually following through with the original statement. You'll notice this if you listen to me talk. There is almost never a time that I say I will do something and there's a period after that. Almost never.
But I've been, able to piece together, and that, putting those together, I think is likely how you got to most of this, but again,
here's the thing: how do you account for maybe the difference in what people are hearing from insiders who are not being accused of fraud and you who sort of is? There's a very different sort of story going on here, where you're saying there's this big position that we didn't know about, because you told me that the last time we spoke in a space, and I went and followed up and I said, hey, is this true? Could it be that this number just wasn't known about? And some Alameda insiders said, no way. You could see on dashboards really simply where it was, and FTX dashboards, not Alameda dashboards, dashboards that you yourself had access to. So my question is sort of it seems like when I go to Alameda insiders or FTX insiders, they're saying this story makes no sense, But when I go to you, who sort of has every incentive to sort of lie and obfuscate, because obviously
I think he's going to have to go pretty soon here. I feel like there's a meeting that probably just came up. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's got to go.
here is, well, otherwise you might go to jail, which obviously would be a very bad thing for you.
Yeah.
It seems like all of a sudden all the excuses come out, and then when we follow up on them, they don't seem to be true. So I don't know. Like, help me square this.
I love how he says it. He's like, so it seems like, whenever it comes to you admitting that you should do something that would put you in jail, or that you did something that could put you in jail, so like now all the excuses come up, but then whenever we look into the excuses, it turns out they're not true. So like, could you provide some clarification on why you're lying? Yeah, this is so good.
Because, it'd be nice if you were telling the truth, but everything we're hearing from insiders is that you're not.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm saying what I believe. I don't know which insiders you're talking about. I don't know exactly what they said. It doesn't line up with my beliefs, but I can't.
He's using belief because it's a softer word than truth, and it's harder to hold that against him because it's subjective.
Speak to what they think or what they said.
But why are
sorry,
multiple people
more,
within your company at less senior roles knowing more about the company than you?
No.
And Alameda was not a company that was running at the time, but I hear you. I'm sorry. I don't know exactly what you're referring to. I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know what they said. I don't.
Well, I'm telling you some of what they said.
He doesn't know anything. Like, I mean, did this guy even work there? I don't know if he even did. Maybe we got the wrong guy. Maybe it's the wrong person.
For example, one of them was that there was like
He's
that
just the fall
backdoor system or whatever. A, that you knew it existed, and B, that it was easy to see the balance or the position of Alameda very simply on FTX dashboards. Because they had a margin trading account with you guys. So you guys could have seen it.
But
you guys could see the margin positions of everybody, no?
But a lot of the position did not appear in that main account.
So you could see it, but it didn't appear. Now, why didn't it appear? I mean, like, bro, like you know how it is, right? Yeah, I mean.
So where was the position?
It was in a separate stub account, I believe, related to wire transfers that had been sent, to Alameda Research, generally primarily to FTX, having its own bank accounts.
So who controlled the secret stub account? Did anyone at Alameda know about this secret stub account? I mean, are we supposed to believe that just like there was this stub account that nobody knew about?
I don't know who knew about what when. I'm sorry.
I mean,
I don't know about who knew about what when. Okay, all right, that explains a lot.
Clearly, somebody lost the money, right? Like, obviously, the money went somewhere. Somebody lost it. It just seems really convenient that $8 billion was located in this like account that didn't show up when you pulled up Alameda's balances, right?
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, so a separate question is obviously around this Forbes thing, because you've said you don't have present knowledge of sort of like Alameda's balances, and they came out and said that you were giving them up-to-date balances from Alameda. How do you square that? Just as of a month ago, you knew Alameda's position. How does that square with your statement about like you don't know what's going on?
I haven't seen the thing that you're referring to, but I was able to give very rough approximations that included a subset of the list of assets that Alameda had. By asking about the assets I believe to be the largest sets of them, I was not giving full accountings.
Why?
Of all of Alameda's balances or positions, because I didn't generally have those, and because it was a complicated process dependent on liquidity of tokens and things like that.
This is
from
super
the Forbes
sus,
perspective. So I was just sending them a sort of abbreviated partial list of Alameda assets periodically.
But that means you knew that what Alameda had. Even roughly, you knew what Alameda had.
I had a rough sense of what their assets are. That is correct. By rough,
so he did know one thing, but it was a rough sense. And so, like, what does rough mean? It means that if you ask him about a number, he doesn't know it.
I do need
Obviously.
to within, $10 billion or so. I did not have a fine-grained sense of what their total asset value was, and I did not have a fine-grained sense of their liabilities or of their margin position size or how that was split up.
I guess one of my questions is like, what do you think should be done if we find out that you're lying about all of this? Like, sort of, because it's
That's a great question. Wow.
kind of one thing to steal people's money. It's another thing to lie about it. What do you think should be done? Like, because I mean, it's going to be, obviously a lot of this is going to eventually get litigated. Eventually Caroline Ellison's going to have to take the stand. What happens if she pulls out text messages that shows you knew about it? I mean, do you think that wipes away your credibility?
I mean, I think a lot of my credibility has already been wiped away, frankly. And
well, he's right about something.
I think that's fair.
Honestly, that's not what I'm thinking about right now. I'm not trying to focus on, I'm just thinking about customers here who I think are what matter.
So you're saying that
That was probably the worst answer that I've ever heard. That is impressively fucking bad. Wow. I was just thinking about customers, which is what really matters. Yeah, what a
for
surprise.
them to get money back or for us to get our money back?
I don't want to speak out of turn, and I can't make promises on behalf of the company.
So we're gonna get our money back. He's like, I can't speak out of turn. I can't make promises. But the customer is what's most important. So are we gonna get our money? Well, I mean, listen, the customer is what's most important.
On behalf of the company, and I don't know what decisions everyone's going to make. I do know that FTX US, to my knowledge, is totally solvent and could, I think, return everyone's money tomorrow if it wanted to. And I think internationally, there are a lot of pathways, potentially forward there that one could imagine FTX International taking. I think, I know that as of before I filed, there were billions of dollars of serious funding offers potentially on the table. And, I would expect and hope that those are being deeply
Who were those
explored.
funding offers?
I don't know that I have authority to say.
Well, you said you had
So
$4
they didn't exist?
billion that came in, right?
Yep.
Does that still exist? Was that ever real?
Was that ever real?
I think it. I don't know for sure, but I think that some of those might. My guess is that some of them might. I hope that the sort of relevant teams are doing whatever they can to maximize value for customers here.
There it is, right there. Okay, so he stumbled around, but he finally found out, all right, let's use that phrase again. The customer team's going to do their best for Bro, that is, oh my God, this dude is fucked. What happened? Yeah, look at this. How's this kid get so much money? He doesn't even seem bright. A lot of people, bro, if you were getting interviewed and you know that it's not a matter of if, but when you go to jail for a very, very long period of time, you're going to be really stressed out. So it's like, I understand that he's not very good at talking, etc. I'm not surprised about this at all, because here's the thing. Cryptocurrency sells people on such a great idea. It's that they're smarter than everybody else and they're going to make a bunch of money doing nothing. This is the same reason why you go through the supermarket and you check out and there's a bunch of pictures of Dr. Oz smiling like this. And it says, lose 40 pounds in 3 weeks by eating cupcakes and doing nothing. And then there's like a bunch of other people that are like, oh, wow, really? That's great. And that's the one that they buy because they don't want to have to go out and go jogging or go to the gym or buy a gym membership or something like that. No, they don't want to stop eating cupcakes. So if Dr. Oz just sits there, that's all they need to worry about. Dr. Oz has got it taken care of. So this is why people give somebody like Sam all their money, is because Sam tells stupid people that they're smart. And this is one of the most effective ways of getting money out of stupid people, is telling them they're not stupid. Because that's the one thing they're worried about. And number one, they're also stupid too, so it's easy to figure it out and easy to trick them. And that's just what happens. Yeah. Natural selection is real but different. Well, no, it's, as I said, I think that there are a lot of boring, uneventful, talentless people that have no work ethic, that don't want to do anything with their life, but they simultaneously think that they deserve to be at the top of society. And crypto appeals to those people because it makes you rich by doing nothing, and you can think in some way that it's because of something that you earned. That's why. That's exactly fucking why. Here's how, yeah.
It just kind of doesn't make a lot of sense why someone would pour $4 billion when you guys have liabilities sort of as high as you do.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a bit about the mark-to-market like statements you were making around solvency? You're making some pretty outrageous statements about like FTX, had the money when a lot of it was Serum, FTT, these tokens that you can't sell in those amounts.
So basically what he did is he had, so, okay, all right, basically like they had this amount of money, but then what he did is he bought a printer, okay? And so then with the printer, he printed out monopoly money, and he put that money on top of the money he already had, and now they have more money. Yeah, that's simple.
And that would completely crash the price. They can't support that kind of selling. Were you kind of deliberately misleading people there?
So what I can say is I was just thinking about them in terms of, their mark price was just whatever their market price.
You were thinking about the customers in terms of their mark price. I think that you're telling the truth.
Price was at the time. And, obviously I was cognizant of the fact that, you can't.
Poor choice of words.
The market price isn't necessarily, is never, what you could sell a large amount of something for. But I also massively misjudged that discrepancy there. And,
what do you mean you massively misjudged it? Because you knew.
Keep in mind, misjudge. You think about the word misjudge. Misjudge means that it is something that you did not do intentionally. So this is, again, another little tricky language thing that he's playing here to try to confuse people. He's making it seem like he did not do this intentionally.
Sort of roughly the percentage of Serum and FTT you held. And you knew the trading volume. I mean, you are a smart guy. You're a professional trader. There's no way you make a simple mistake like that, right? Like, how's that even possible?
I mean, it was a pretty big misjudgment and mistake that I made.
It was a big mistake. How'd you make such an obvious mistake? It was a big mistake. Okay, well, that settles it.
And a pretty embarrassing one, but I was thinking of it internally.
Think of it in terms of the customers, Sam. Think about giving the customers value.
In the context of standard market environment, and obviously that still means, substantial impact. But it's a different scale than what you would see, than what we did see in the market crash that happened, where without selling, without liquidating the position, there was a, much larger than 50% market crash in a few days.
Yeah, of course they are. Because here's the thing, is that I feel like a lot of these crypto coins are like houses of cards, but people think that they're legitimate pyramids. And eventually a wind blows, and then the house of cards starts falling down, and people are like, wait a minute, I thought this was a fucking pyramid. What's happening? And they're all falling down. It's all just built on itself. It's crazy that people believe this shit. They're so stupid.
Period.
It's amazing.
With, very little bid-side liquidity. Wow. And that obviously history has said again and again that those events are possible, those very correlated market crashes, and not just very correlated market crashes in those instruments, but ones where hedges don't end up working fully or even
right. But we
all.
don't even need to have this market crash for the statement about mark-to-market accounting making no sense, right? And you just said that yourself. Even with standard movements, right? If you tried to sell the amount of serum or FTT that you had on the books, you wouldn't have gotten half. You wouldn't have gotten a quarter of what you put on your books to investors. And so
keep in mind, guys, this is why we have regulation. If you go back and you look at like the old fucking robber baron oil tycoon era, people did this exact same stuff then. They were printing extra fucking shares whenever people were buying them, that they were buying for each other, falsely advertising. Yeah, we already went through this. Yet there's a reason why there are these laws. I feel like this has been a very good lesson for a lot of people, why we have these rules.
The question is like, we know that you're not, the problem is like every time it comes to this hard point, the answer seems to always be, I made an embarrassing mistake. But
yeah,
at what point are you going to say like, no, I'm a smart guy, right? You were at the highest levels of this entire industry. You were the guy to go to, the smartest guy in the room, right? It's hard to believe that you made this many embarrassing mistakes. One embarrassing mistake, I get it. But everything's an embarrassing mistake.
Well, what it's like all he does is make mistakes that end up benefiting him. That's why I don't think it's a mistake. Like, if the mistakes didn't benefit him, then I'd be like, yeah, he's just an idiot. Who cares, right? He's really good at one thing. He's not good at this other thing. It's whatever.
At least tell us that you knew that the mark-to-market made no sense.
Come on.
And the way that I was thinking about risk at score was starting with mark-to-market and then adjusting down effectively from that. And obviously that means that there should be a real buffer because of exactly what you're saying. That buffer should have been a lot larger than I was thinking of.
But you never went down from risk from there. And you said publicly, FTX is solvent. Other views may differ. Well, there is no other view on it. There's the fact of how markets work. And you were making public misleading statements. It wasn't one time you did this. You continued to make misleading statements about it after people had given you pushback. So
sorry, which times are you talking about here?
I think it was in one of your follow-ups about the what happened. You said something about other views may differ.
Oh, that was FTX US, was it not?
I'm going to look it up real quick.
While I was looking it up, Sam left the Twitter space. He's like, he put a little misdirection. Go look it up. All right, I gotta go. He's gone. Got away. But he did come back.
I got a quick question about Dan Friedberg, your chief regulatory officer. This is a guy. I
don't feel comfortable like talking about other people without getting sort of their sign off on that. So I think there's a limited extent to which I'm going to be willing or feel comfortable, speaking on others' behalves.
No, that's totally fair. And I don't want you to speak on his behalf, obviously. I want you to share your perspective, your unique perspective on the situation. Just like the same, I might ask a question about Caroline Ellison, but I only could expect your position on the situation. So kind of the situation there is obviously this is sort of a tale of two stories about how FTX failed. One is like a lack of regulation, a lack of clarity, the kind of just this thing that accumulated over time. The other one is, of course, a story of fraud. Of course, we have to look at who were the adults in the room. One of the adults, obviously, was Dan Friedberg, chief regulatory officer.
Who, by the way, wasn't this chief regulatory officer guy, wasn't he also already involved in another scam before this whenever they hired him?
I'm sure you're aware he was behind the ultimate bet scandal where he gave players God mode in a poker game where people could see the hands, and he actually basically conspired with Russ Hamilton to hide that.
Yeah, so like what was going through your head whenever you thought that, hey, this guy should be our regulatory officer? What part of his resume really kind of stuck out for you?
So does that suggest something about your intention that you hired a guy that basically one of his biggest achievements was hiding fraud?
Achievements.
Can you explain sort of your thinking? I know you don't want to talk about him.
But
Can you
why
explain
you
your
hired him?
thinking about why this would be the guy you choose as the
Yes.
chief regulatory officer?
This seems like it's like imagine if you have like an office for anti-Semitism and you hire Kanye West. It's just a bad idea. It doesn't look good. Too soon? By the way, I got a link to the interview. We might be watching that after this. It's not that long.
We had a number of people in the legal department. We had that was maybe our fastest growing department. We had a number of outside law firms as well. Dan was obviously one of the people who had been working for FTX for a while.
He's the chief guy. He should have caught some of this stuff, you'd think, in theory.
Well, when you say he's
I think that he did. I think that he saw it, but he didn't catch it.
chief guy, I mean, there's we also had general counsels. We had other positions as well, but I can't speak to what other people's views were, what they thought or knew or were intending when.
Why'd you hire a con artist to be your regulatory officer? It's a pretty easy question.
But I know that like our legal and regulatory team had an enormous task in front of them. We were looking to get licensed and regulated in dozens of jurisdictions at once. We did end up doing that. That was an unbelievably large undertaking, which I think
it was an unbelievably large donation to the people that make the decisions on regulation. That's what I kind of assume.
Took up most of the time of most of our legal and compliance departments, and in retrospect, I think probably took up too much time. But at the end of the day, I was CEO, and that means that at the end of the day, it's on me to make sure that we have.
This is again. He's going into a pre-approved speech.
People who are in charge of all of the important things, and I did that for some of the areas. I failed to do that for others,
But why'd you choose him specifically? I mean, obviously, you could have chosen a lot of different lawyers to go with.
Anybody.
And I understand you had multiple lawyers, but if this story of FTX is largely a failure of regulation, a failure of controls at an organization, and your chief regulatory officer is Dan Friedberg, the question is, well, maybe this wouldn't have happened if you hadn't put a guy like this in front of this. I'm not obviously saying it's
maybe not. Maybe it wouldn't have happened if you put this. Yeah, I mean, shit.
His fault
Maybe.
solely. But I'm just asking sort of what was the thinking behind putting this guy in charge? Because it seems like you couldn't pick a less qualified candidate if you want
I think Sam's going to have to go pretty soon here.
to get actual regulation in the room.
I think he's going to have to go.
I'm pretty confused. I didn't say this was a failure of regulation, and
Yeah, he's going to
we
have to.
did an enormous amount of work on getting licensed and regulated. We're licensed in more jurisdictions than
Not even
I think
talking
any
about the
other
guy.
exchange was. I think it was absolutely a failure of oversight of risk management. But
Yeah, true.
and I think that
Yeah.
in retrospect,
Yeah.
I would have viewed the core duties and things I needed to make sure of more so than anything else very differently than I did. But from a becoming licensed perspective,
Yeah.
we did do quite a bit there, and were able to accomplish that in a fairly short period of time. And so, I think I'm not sure that I completely agree with the premise of that framing of the question. And I'll just say that like the people who work with FTX, like I have enormous respect for most of them, and they did enormously valuable work, and
Oh my God.
they didn't do all the work. Obviously, there are really important things that didn't get done, but that's on me as CEO to make sure that there are people who are doing all of the important things, because there's way too much to do. We're doing way too much as a company for any
Oh my
particular
God.
person to be expected to be definitely on top of even of some important things, given how many other important things they also had to be dealing with at the time.
Besides the ums and ahs, this guy's a pretty good bullshit artist. I'm impressed. Yeah, he can really talk about a bunch of nothing for a while. This is pretty good. Yeah, whenever the thing is, like, you can tell that, like, there's, like, a lot of ums and ahs, and then he kind of, like, fucking stumbles, and then he's like, okay, all right, yeah, we're gonna say this, we're gonna say that, we're gonna say this, we're gonna say that, right? And so, like, he starts moving on it.
And by the way, I do apologize. I am fairly late at this point. For next thing, I do have to hop off.
Sam, thank you so much for your time and
Wow, what a surprise!
Speakers.
Yep,
Thank you so much,
there we
Marty,
go.
everybody.
Yeah, he's got to go. There it is. Damn, it's getting dark outside. Yeah, man, I got to get back home. This is too much. Maybe you could talk you guys out of your cock and balls problem with your company. Yeah, I mean, listen, the guy is obviously, I'll link you guys the video. This is the Coffeezilla video. This guy, I know it might sound crazy, but he's an actual journalist, so make sure to give it a like and give him a sub if you haven't already. I fucking love these videos. I think it's hilarious that he got this guy. I don't understand what fucking moron is telling him that he should be going into random Twitter spaces and making statements about this. This is insane. What are you doing? I can't believe it. It just seems like such a massive mistake, man. Yeah, he's dumb. His PR people, I cannot see this being a positive at all. It seems like a horrible fucking mistake. It's incredible how quickly he goes from a genius whiz to incompetent buffoon the second he actually gets asked any detailed questions. Well, I think that I don't think Sam is stupid. I don't think he's stupid at all. I think that he doesn't, like, the problem is that you can't put lipstick on a pig. It's still a fucking pig. Like, he doesn't have a lot to work with here. You know what I mean?